Hello, and welcome to Lesson 5-7 on solving equations by adding or subtracting fractions. In tonight's lesson, we have two objectives. One, you will be able to solve equations by subtracting fractions, and second, you will be able to solve equations by adding fractions. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, in the past, we've talked about how to solve equations like this. Some number n minus 4 is 36. If we go through the steps, our job is always to get n by itself. So you add 4 to both sides, because n minus 4, well, to get rid of that minus 4, you'd add 4. And you'd have n is, well, 36 plus 4 is 40. And you could check your answer to make sure it works. I could put 40 back in. I could put 40 back in, subtract 4, and I get 36, which works. That's what I started with. So that's what we've done in the past. Now tonight, we're going to talk about how to solve them when we have fractions. And really, the steps are the exact same. You want to get your variable by itself. So here I have n minus 8/9 is the same as 5/9. Well, to get n by itself on the same side, I have minus 8/9. So here I'd add it. And I'm left with n is the same thing as, well, when the denominators are the same, you add the numerators, 13/9. N is 13/9, or if I wanted to write it as a mixed number, 1 and 4/9. Either one of those would be correct. So that's what tonight's lesson is about. Here's an example with the word problem. One school recycles about 1/3 of its waste paper. The student council set a goal of recycling 3/4 of the school's waste paper by the end of the year. By how much does the school need to increase its paper recycling to reach the goal? So first, we need to write an equation. We know right now the school recycles 1/3. All right, that's how much they recycle at this point. Now, the student council set a goal, meaning a whole amount that they want recycled is 3/4. So that's going to be what it equals. All right, so we need to figure out what is this missing piece? How much more do they need to recycle in order to get to 3/4? So again, you're going to go through the steps. You subtract 1/3 from each side. And I'm left with, well, x is, this time we don't have the same denominators. The denominators are different. We have 3/4 minus 1/3. In order to solve those, remember you come up with an equivalent fraction. So 9/12 minus 4/12, and you get 5/12. So 5/12, let's see, what should my label be? 5/12 of its paper. So it needs to recycle 5/12 more of what they already do in order for them to reach their goal. So now it's your turn. I would like you to solve this problem just like I did. X minus 2/3 is 1/9. So pause me now. All right, let's check it. Well, of course, you'd add 2/3 to both sides. And you're left with x is, again, you need common denominators. Here, I'm going to use 9. And I get 1/9, and here, I times by 3, and I get 6/9. So 1/9 plus 6/9 is 7/9. X is the same as 7/9. All right, now this time we have a word problem. Q minus 6/2 is the same as -1 and 3/5. I'm going to show you two ways you can solve this one, and you can decide what way you like better. Either way, it'll work. You just have to decide what best fits your needs. All right, one thing you can do is solve it exactly as it's written. So here, to get Q by itself, I'd add 6.5 to each side. And I'm left with Q is equal to, well, here, -1 and 3/5 plus 6.5. Well, this time the signs are different. So to actually add this together, I need to subtract them. The bigger number minus the smaller. Let's see, the common denominator here would be 10. So that's 5/10, and this is 6/10. All right, so I can't take 6 from 5, so I need to borrow again. And that makes a whole 10/10. So here I actually have 15/10 now, and I subtract, get 9/10. 5 minus 1 is 4. And then I take a look, well, 6½ was bigger and it's positive, so Q is 4 9/10. So if this works for you, solve it that way. Now, however, there's another way you can solve it. And that is converting everything to decimals. So what I'm going to do instead is convert it to a decimal. Q minus, well, 6 1/2 is the same as 5/10, and that's the same as negative 1.6, or negative 1 6/10. Because if you divide it out, 3 divided by 5, have to add a decimal, you get 6/10. That's how I came to that piece. And you'd solve it the same way now. The only thing that's different is it's in decimal. So again, to get Q by itself, I'd add 6 5/10. And I get Q, those cross out because they're opposites. And here, now I have negative 1 6/10 plus 6 5/10. Well, in order to solve that, I do still need to subtract. One's positive, one's negative. So you take the bigger minus the smaller, and you get 4 9/10. And again, 6 5/10 was bigger and it's positive, so that makes it positive. So either way, like I said, you get the same answer. You just have to choose what way you'd rather have your answer. Would you like it as a fraction or as a decimal? So now it's your turn. Henry cut 1 3/8 yards from a piece of wood. Afterward, it was 2 1/4 yards long. The equation P minus 1 3/8 is the same as 2 1/4 models the situation. How long was a piece of wood before Henry cut it? Well, they give you the equation. Now I want you to decide. Are you going to solve it like a fraction, or do you want to solve it like it's a decimal? What I want you to do is pause me and solve it. So go ahead and do that now. All right. So let's check this one then. Well, I'm going to leave it as a fraction, and I'm just going to solve it. To get rid of minus 1 3/8, I'm going to add it. And I'm left with P is equal to, well, 2 1/4 plus 1 3/8. Again, I need common denominators. And I get 5/8 for that, and 2 plus 1 is 3. I get 3 5/8. And again, if you did this as decimals, I believe you should get 3 625 thousandths. I believe that is what you get when you divide 5 by 8. But let me just check myself just to make sure. Yes. 5 divided by 8 is 0.625. So now we need a label. So it's 3 5/8 yards. Do not forget a label with those word problems. There we go. That's tonight's lesson. We talked about how to solve equations by either adding or subtracting. I will see you in class tomorrow. Bye-bye.